Good morning. We're going to wait just a minute to see if anybody joins us. We'll be here every Sunday at 10 o'clock until we come together again, and maybe even after that. As you remember, the last story we told was about the time when Jesus died, and they took his body off the cross and wrapped it in a white linen cloth and put it in a cave, a tomb, and rolled a stone across to make sure that nobody could get in. Now, last Sunday we didn't have a story because it was Easter. And usually we don't have Sunday school on Easter. We have an egg hunt instead. Now, why do we have egg hunts at Easter? Well, I think one reason might be that inside many eggs is new life. A chick could come out of this egg if it had been fertilized. And so people often decorate eggs for Easter in very special ways. I wonder if you decorated eggs. And we look for them at church. And another sign of new life for us, and maybe you got a butterfly in the mail, and I'm going to be sending you one to color. But another sign of new life is a butterfly because it's in a cocoon. It's all wrapped up and it seems like it's dead, but then something beautiful comes out. So before I start the lessons about Easter, I'm going to ring the bell so that I can get ready inside. When it stops ringing, I'll be ready, I think. Now, on the first Sunday of knowing Jesus in a new way, it was Easter morning. And it was the women who went to the tomb. There were two Marys among others. Mary, the mother of James, and Mary Magdalene seemed to lead the way. Now, Mary Magdalene was not a mother, but she was a good and true friend. When they got to the tomb, they saw that somebody had rolled aside the stone, and they had wondered how they were going to get in with their spices to finish the burial. But they looked inside, and what they saw was nothing. Nothing except the white linen cloth that Jesus' body had been wrapped in. They ran back to tell the others, but most did not believe them. Now Peter, being Peter, jumped up and started to run to the tomb. Some say James ran there also and got there first, but he waited for Peter and they went inside together. Inside, they could feel his presence in the absence, but he was gone, really gone. Peter and James went back, but Mary stood outside the tomb, crying, weeping. And she heard a voice. "Woman, why are you weeping?" Through her tears, she turned, and she saw two men dressed in white. "Jesus has gone on," they said. "Tell the disciples to meet him in Galilee." Mary was still weeping when she heard another voice. "Woman, why are you weeping?" It must have been the gardener. So she said to him, "Tell me where they have taken him so I can bring him back." "Mary," he said, and when he said her name, she knew it was he. She must have taken a step closer because Jesus said, "No, you cannot hold me. I am risen, but not yet ascended." And then he was gone. Mary went back to tell the others. Now, on this, the second Sunday of the Easter season, we are going to remember how the disciples were gathered in a room in the dark with the doors shut. They were afraid. They were afraid that the soldiers would come and take them the way they had taken Jesus. "Peace be with you," a voice said. "Peace be with you." They looked, and it was he. At first they thought it was a ghost. But then he showed them his wounds, and he ate some fish. And he opened the scriptures the way he had on the road to Emmaus. "Peace be with you," he said again, and then he was gone. The next day, the disciples told Thomas, who had not been there. But Thomas did not believe them. He had doubt in his bones. He said, "Unless I can touch his wounds, I will not believe." Well, why wouldn't he have doubt? Their minds were stretching to be big enough to understand knowing Jesus in this new way. Well, 8 days passed, and all the disciples were gathered again in the room with the door shut. And Thomas was with them this time. "Peace be with you," the voice said. And this time, Jesus went right up to Thomas, and he held out his hand. "Touch me," Jesus said. Thomas fell to his knees and said, "My Lord and my God." Jesus looked at Thomas for a long time and said, "You have seen and now you believe." But then Jesus looked around the whole circle of disciples and said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." Now, these are two stories that happened a long, long time ago and made the people who knew Jesus in a new way for the first time, who knew the risen Lord, to say, "Wow." Now, one of the Psalms in the Bible talks about the feeling of wow when people think about God the Creator. That's another way we know God. We know God through the risen Christ and through Jesus with us now, but we know God as the Creator. And in Psalm 8, the person who wrote the psalm, and some say it was David, the person who wrote the psalm says, "O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens. Through the praise of children and infants, you have established a stronghold against your enemies. When I look at the heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? Yet you have made them a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name over all the earth." That's the psalmist saying, "Wow, God, you are great. You made this whole creation." So I want you to think this week about some of the things that God made, some of the things that you will see this week, and make you wonder and say, "Wow, God has filled the world with awesome things." So tell us, tell your parents, tell your friends, things that you see this week, maybe on a walk, maybe through people taking care of you and love, some things that you see that make you say, "Wow, God is wonderful over all the earth." Next week, we will continue a story of Easter, and we'll also talk about a wonderful story from the Quakers about listening for God. I'll see you then.